It's October now, so it's a little while since we've had an update, but as you can see, things on site have come a long way. This is Prospect Terrace, which is going to be part of our front street, and you can see we're actually at the roof level now, so the roof timbers are going on and we're about to start tiling the roof as well. And if you look along the front row here, you can see the spaces for the shop fronts to be going in, the hairdressers at the end here, the fish and chip shop and John's Cafe. And then Norman Cornish's house, the stone building here, which will house some of the collection given to us from his early life. This street will be a Victorian terrace, so it'll be a cobbled street, not dissimilar from the street in the existing town. And we're very much trying to show here a sort of moving through the ages of people coming into these older buildings, but set in the 50s, and starting to show the sort of more up-to-date shop fronts and possessions and equipment that people had in the 50s. So we're at the western end of the site now. You can see the new welfare hall in the background. And the two plots we're working on here are, I suppose, what people would think of as being typical 50s buildings. Red brick, in this case semi-detached houses, and some of you'll remember we ran the campaign a few years ago to nominate your own home, and this is the house that was nominated from Red House in Sunderland. These will be built up fairly quickly, and then we'll spend the time fitting out, but at the moment it's all about just getting building shells in, really. You can see there's a bit of a retaining wall between the buildings here that just gives them a bit of a separation on the levels. And then the police houses in the background, so you'll all have seen police houses around the region, two buildings with this sort of office space in between, some of them still used as police stations, and that's a really iconic feature of 50s developments, those new police houses, so we're looking forward to seeing those finished soon as well. So we're taking a closer look at the semi-detached houses here. Something that we've probably spoken about before is the optical illusion when things are still at ground level, and rooms and buildings look absolutely tiny. So you've got the hallway here, and then the living room on the right, the dining room at the back, and the kitchen. Now these aren't enormous rooms by the standards of, say, properties in the 70s where rooms have got a lot larger, but they're not tiny spaces either, and it really does sort of create a false sense of how big the building is when you see the substructures going in. But we measured these buildings very precisely from the originals. We had to take into account what modifications have been made to those buildings later on. So where windows have been put in, for example, or maybe internal walls have been moved around, new openings put in, and tried to get these as close as possible to how they were in the 50s. And that's the layout that you can see here, the main living room, dining room at the back, the kitchen and the hallway, and then your bedrooms upstairs. We've had to adapt this building a little bit to make sure that all visitors can get in and see the upstairs. We're actually putting in a small lift, so wheelchair users or people who can't climb stairs for any reason can get to the upstairs of the building and see the bedrooms and see the stories that we're presenting in there. So that means one of these properties has just been tweaked slightly to fit that lift in and allow visitors to pass through in the top. And those kinds of modifications are the things we have to look at throughout the project, really balancing the historical accuracy, the sort of pure replication of these buildings, with making it work as a visitor space and as a museum that everyone can use. So another plot we've started on recently is the aged miners' homes here. You can see we've put the foundation concrete in and we're just starting to lay blocks now. It's quite a large footprint there. The two pairs of semi-detached aged miners' homes does give you quite a length on the building here, and we're fighting against the landscape a little bit here, so we're going to have to bring the level that we're stood on at the moment up a bit to reconnect it with the paths across the site. But the buildings will be level eventually. Absolutely lovely spot for these aged miners' homes, and for the centre, for the work we're doing with older people. They'll have the bowling green in front of them and then this lovely view out across the valley behind. So it's a really nice location, and of course you can see this wagon at the back here. There's a dedicated road entrance for us to bring groups into this site, so really good position for it. So we've obviously made significant progress on Spainsfield Farm here. The last time I saw the building looking anything like this was on a very cold January morning with the architect surveying it up in Weardale. You can see we've got some of the windows in now, a lot of the roof structures going in, and actually the stone tiling is on the roof. So we're getting very close to finishing the shell of this building. There's a lot of work to do from here, so the landscaping around this building needs a lot of work. We need to bring the animals in eventually, let them start to settle into the landscape as well, and prepare this part of the site for visitors to come in, to make sure that the access routes used by vehicles getting to the other building sites aren't crossing where pedestrians and visitors are going to be. And there's also a fair bit of work to do inside once we've finished the main shell. Although this wasn't a complicated building in terms of lots of modern facilities like power and water, it was a very sort of simple building in terms of amenities, if you like. So they had a spring that they collected their water from rather than having running water, and they didn't actually have electrical supply to the building. I think they had a generator at some points, but there weren't power lines into the building. Now we've adapted that. We've decided it's going to be important for us to bring power into the building here for practical use, but it just reminds you how remote and sort of simple the lifestyle up in the hills was even in the 50s. So as you can see, our bus depot is very nearly finished now. The finishing touches are to complete the landscape around the edge here, so a bit of turf over the topsoil here, just a few little tweaks in the building, and this will be handed over for use. And this is a really important part of developing Beamish's infrastructure. So the visitor numbers that we've had over the past few years have obviously been climbing steadily. That means we need more transport, more capacity to be able to take people around the site. And it's really important that we've got an appropriate place to store the extra buses that we need, and this will do the job and also give us great facilities to maintain and repair the buses. So we've got pits in there, the staff will be able to work on the buses in much better ways than they have been able to previously. A really good practical facility. But visitors will also be able to go in and see some of the work taking place, see some of the tools we're using and things as well. So it's a good engagement space as well. Can't wait for it to be open.